Welcome to Justice Losers, the podcast where we discuss hows and whys of entertainment media, namely movies, TVs, and comics. I got it back for you, bud. In the hot seat today, I'm your host, Preston, joined as always by my delightful co-host,
Matt.
Matt, what should people do?
The things.
What a disaster this... Oh, my keys are in the frame. My drink's in the frame.
I'm sorry, I panicked.
This is just a disaster.
You should subscribe and follow and leave a comment. And, you know, every medium has its own way of interacting with it. You can like the thing. You can retweet the thing. You can somehow do
Last
the
week was
thing.
our philosophical one. Don't start getting, like... Everything has its own place and like a way.
Everything is in its box, and in the box there's an object, and you can touch it, but you can't look at it.
All right.
Okay.
Matt.
Preston.
You know what a werewolf is?
I have a question for you.
Oh, good.
Everyone always asks werewolf. No one ever asks why wolf. Tell me, Preston, why wolf?
Oh, why wolf? Why wolf? I'll tell you why.
Why not wolf?
It all goes back to 5000 BC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you. I've got my notes. I've got my notes on all of the movies that I've watched. That is Werewolf of London 1935, The Wolfman 1941, The Curse of the Werewolf 1961, The Howling 1981, American Werewolf in London 1981, Wolfen 1981. 1981 was a big year for werewolves.
Apparently.
Company of Wolves 1984, Teen Wolf 1985, Wolf 1994, Ginger Snaps 2000, Brotherhood of the Wolf 2001, and Dog Soldiers 2001. Matt.
Preston.
I've got my idea. My strong ideas about why werewolves are so heavily in the cultural psychology of being afraid of them. Mm-hmm. So having watched the million movies, I've got a really good idea, but I want to see what I could do to lead you to those conclusions.
Okay.
If I just asked you right now, why are people scared of werewolves?
They're big and they'll chew your face off.
Okay. Care to elaborate?
So, not all, but many effective horror tropes and archetypes rely on some sort of actual visceral horror. You know, slasher movies, it's the fear of getting murdered. Werewolf movies, it's the fear of getting eaten. Mm-hmm. I go back to this comparison all the time because it explains so much about movies and my philosophy about movies. Bird Box versus Quiet Place. In Quiet Place, the fear is the monsters are going to eat you. In Bird Box, the fear is the monsters are going to make you look at them and see something that's either going to make you very sad or it's your actual worst fear, and then you're going to commit suicide and your eyes are going to go all weird. Unless you're crazy, in which case you're going to be on the monster's side and try to kill other people and force them to look at the monsters. Which one of those is more viscerally terrifying? So having an element of just pure visceral terror works. But, I mean, you can make anything viscerally terrifying. Anything can come and eat you. A house can come and eat you. They made a cartoon about that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why werewolves in particular? I think you mentioned it yourself, the dichotomy, the beast and the man in yourself. You know, people are afraid of their own nature, the violence inherent to the human condition. Werewolves are both viscerally and psychologically horrifying.
Okay. We're going to get into these. Like, these are all really good points, but I want to make sure we get to the top, like the overarching duality.
Right.
You talked about being gored to death. That essentially distills down to the fear of werewolves. Mm-hmm. Of a fear of looking and seeing one. Mm-hmm. Then you started to touch on another element of it. You started talking about the man versus beast.
Right. Yeah. No. People have flawed natures. People like violence. People have the capability of violence and hurting each other and being terrible. And werewolf is sort of a very tangible manifestation of that. It's the idea that you can't control that animal dangerous nature in yourself. You're nodding. I'm doing good. I'm saying the things.
So the two things that I came up with after watching all these So there are two fears
Okay.
that happen simultaneously in werewolf movies.
Okay.
Fear of them and fear of becoming them. This is something that after watching all these movies, I'm like, okay, every single movie seems to touch on one or both of these, where it's giving a main character who's put beside a werewolf, where it's, holy shit, I'm gonna get eaten. I'm afraid of this werewolf. Or it puts the main character as a werewolf that is going, oh my god, what am I gonna do?
You're gonna hurt someone they care about.
Exactly. That is a trope through most of the early movies. Is there was a trope with werewolves that they would kill the ones they loved the most. That plays into both the fear of them and fear of becoming them, because fear of them is like if your loved one turns into a werewolf, you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Right.
But if you turn into a werewolf, you fear of becoming them, you're like, I'm going to kill the person I love the most. Like, that is something that you just don't want to do as a human.
You fear the violent, out of control nature in yourself, and that's
man versus
capability.
the beast.
Its capability to destroy people you care about.
And that man versus beast in both the fear of them and fear of becoming them has a different implication. Because the fear of them, the man versus beast, is two different entities. But the fear of becoming them, the man versus beast, is the internal.
Right.
Is the fear of letting that beast out. In every
Mary
single
Poppins.
werewolf movie that I watched, which is a good data set,
It's a solid chunk, I'd say.
a solid chunk,
You've watched ones I haven't even heard of.
is that when the werewolf dies, they always turn back into the human form. It's the commentary on that we are the beast. That ultimately, the werewolf is letting out the beast, and when you let the beast die, you die. That there is no removing the beast from you.
You can't sever it. You can't cut
sever
it out. You control it. You maintain it.
That starts to fill into the fear of letting go.
Right. What if I choose not to exercise control?
Exactly. Like there's this this feeling of like, what if I just killed everyone that hurt me? Like, everyone's got that fear.
Yeah.
Or has that mind, because we're humans, and like there is a primitive desire of survival where you kill anything that's a threat to you. So people have this internal, instinctual, and primitive desire to kill people. And there's this part of it that's just like, what if I could just let that go? But like, oh god, like that's bad. I shouldn't let that go. And then you get this movie that's just like, what if you did let it go? Like, the theme is like, what if you did just let go? There's a lot of sex in this movie.
Good deal.
And it's, well, I mean, it adds to that. It's this primitive desire of letting go, and also adding in the erotic desire. It drills into the fear of like the feeling of being dirty, where you're like, I could let go. I don't like the fact that I thought that. And I think it's like the part is that that fear of letting go, but also the appeal of letting go. The fear and the appeal of letting go can translate from the fear and appeal of doing what you want to do murderously, and also sexually. But I think it's a translation from from the murderous to the erotic.
I mean, we've all got sort of deep down sexual impulses too, in the same way that we have violent impulses. It's just a basic human pseudo-animalistic nature. I guess it makes sense that would also manifest through werewolfism. Yeah. But a lot of times that's not the focus.
That's not the focus, but I think it's a subconscious.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on one more thing with the cure of being, or the fear of being, is that there is no cure in any of these stories of being no cure from being a werewolf.
Silver bullet to the head.
That's death. When you know that you can't be cured, you know that being changed into a werewolf is a death sentence. That there is no way back. Right. So it furthers that fear of that. I mean, that one also translates to vampires and zombies, which we'll get into.
Right.
But like when you know that the thing that's incurable is just an uncontrollable rage, it just adds to that. And honestly, the fear of
it's
the
because
no
it's
cure,
part of your nature. Your nature is incurable.
True. American Werewolf in London plays to the chaos part. And the chaos element is pervasive in the fact that anytime anyone turns into a werewolf, in ones where they don't control it, they black out and they don't remember it happening.
Right.
Which removes any sort of control.
Of course.
Hearkening to the fear of becoming. But there's no way to reason with it. Movies have used the trope of the loved one being like, it's me. And then they're like, huh? And then they get shot. Bleh.
Bleh.
But if you're going to stick to the idea that they black out and there's no part of their personality left, it's just pure chaos. They just go and eat.
Right.
And not eat all the time. Yeah, that's all of my points.
Yeah, no, I maintain that you can't have horror without some visceral level or some numinous level.
Numinous?
There's your big word for the day.
Yeah, Gage always has
words.
to define one of Matt's words.
I do this for you, Gage. It's for your own edification.
Numinous.
C.S. Lewis uses a great example in the introduction to one of his books. I don't remember which one. I only read the introduction. But I remember this example. He's talking about fear. And there's two kinds of fear. There's, if I tell you, hey, there's a tiger right outside that door, you are afraid. You're afraid that you're going to get eaten, mauled by a tiger.
Yep.
If I tell you, hey, there's a ghost outside that door, you are also afraid, but it's a very different kind of fear. It's the fear of the numinous fear, the fear of something that is outside your understanding, outside of your plane of existence.
Okay.
You need, in any horror archetype or character or movie or book or anything that you want to be horrifying, you have to have an element of fear.
Yep.
And you have to have something that is, I think the visceral really tends to work better, which is why there's a lot of good vampire and ghost and zombie movie, or not ghost, good vampire, werewolf, zombie media
Slasher
out there. Not so much good ghost stuff.
True.
It doesn't connect the same way.
I think I landed on my thesis early on with, and I think the point is that we have discussed it further. So understanding now, when I say werewolves are scary as shit because of the fear of them and the fear of becoming them, now has a ton of implications.
Got backstory.
You understand why there's the fear of becoming them, because there's a fear. There's both a fear and a primitive and primitive and an erotic appeal to it that you don't want to let loose.
Right.
So yeah, some of the more interesting interpretations. Ginger Snaps is one of the most interesting ones. Because it's a slow change into a permanent form.
Okay.
And it's a slow change both physically and mentally.
Okay.
Because it changes the character's personality in a way that it plays to the appeal of becoming them, because the character is just letting loose in every sense of the way. The two characters are anti-establishment to the extreme, and anti-norm,
right?
Like anti-sex, anti-guys, blech. And then as she starts to change, she starts to delve into that, like the sexual desire, the desire to just like let loose and kill other people. There's a thing with them early on where they have a suicide pact. It's in the first 3 minutes. But that changes over time, where she's like, I like who I'm becoming. And that plays to that fear, that fear and appeal of becoming it. Wolf, that one, like once he starts to change, he just feels euphoric.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes incredibly productive. He becomes a wolf in personality, where he's just like, he's a guy who gets stepped on at work, and then he's just like, oh, you know what? I'm going to pull this really sly move and just like pull all of the clients with me and start a new company. Like he becomes a wolf, both physically and sociologically.
I mean, once you stop trying to control those destructive parts of your nature, you're completely uninhibited and
you're free,
entirely in control of your own destiny. There is
freedom.
There is something appealing to that.
Yeah.
The path to the dark side is easy and it's dangerous, but the power is strong.
Mm-hmm. That's my episode.
Okay.
This is my werewolf.
Werewolves are scary, y'all.
Werewolves are scary because we kind of want to be them.
Yep. Cool.
Joust we?
We joust.
If you don't subscribe, I'll find you. If you don't comment, I'll unplug your refrigerator. If you don't like, I'll put a red sock in your whites.